Well, the biggest question hanging over the Padres appears to have now been answered, Derek Togerson. Early report from Wall Street Journal on Friday morning that Jose E. Feliciano and his wife Kwanza Jones heading up the winning bid for your San Diego Padres at the cost of, what is it, Derek?
Okay, get ready. Drum roll, please. $3.9 billion. 3.9 billion. That is, by the way, if it ends up being the number, and then several sources are saying they're right on that track, $1.5 billion more than Steve Cohen paid for the Mets just 6 years ago. And I know inflation is a thing. I don't think it's $1.5 billion worth of a thing. So the Padres are really, really valuable and really, really lucrative. And this is kind of wild, Darnay.
Yeah, pretty incredible. A lot to discuss, so many different angles with this, and a lot of questions. We didn't know much about many of these guys. Mm-hmm. And we maybe know the least about Jose Feliciano if you're just talking the last couple of weeks, like Joe Lacob, obviously. Gore's we familiar with obviously the Pistons and him being an American owner. Dan Friedkin, obviously, being born in San Diego. Didn't know too much about him, but I guess through all of this, I kind of viewed Jose Feliciano as a bit of a wild card. And would you look at this? He is the guy. Funny how that works out. You and I didn't think we were going to have a podcast this week. It was a busy Thursday. Yes. You were running around Petco Park. The early start kind of makes it tricky. So we're kind of thinking, all right, which might be a week that has to go by without one. Then we wake up to the news today. We're like, we should probably discuss this. So here we are. We'll do that for the next.
They keep pulling us right back in, Darnay.
Suck us right back in. And that's all right, because it's a conversation I think a lot of us have been looking forward to having, seeing kind of what the next steps would look like, what the next ownership group would look like. And now we have some idea. Before we get into that, thanks as always to OGs, sponsor of the On Fire podcast. Appreciate all OGs does for On Fire and the NBC7 sports team. If you need a place to catch the Padres now that they are back on the road, watch maybe some NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. They haven't begun yet, have they? Or they're about to? NHL playoffs are about to start. I don't think they've started yet.
Does a play-in count?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Then the NBA playoffs are underway. Yes.
No, NHL.
NHL. Oh no, the NHL. Yeah, you're right. No, the NHL still has a couple of days left.
There you go. So when that time comes around, if you need a place to watch
Why
some,
did I hear NHL, my NBA, my God.
No,
they start tomorrow.
There you go. If you need plans for your Saturday night, head to one of the many OGs locations around San Diego County. Watch some NHL playoff hockey or the Padres. Great menu. They're constantly updating and a bunch of specials and an awesome beer list. So shout out to OGs. Without further ado, the welcome music. It is the On Fire podcast brought to you by NBC7 on a busy Friday afternoon. Not our usual Thursday afternoon time slot, but I guess it's an emergency pod with the news this morning that Jose E. Feliciano, his wife Kwanza Jones, heading up the group that will purchase the Padres from the Sidlers for a Major League Baseball record cost $3.9 billion. We thought there was a good chance that they would go north of 3, maybe around 3.5. And, real estate businesses, entities in California, Derek, whatever you think the price is going to be, by the time the bidding war starts, it creeps up higher and higher and higher. And that is quite a ticket number and quite the investment from Feliciano and company. And we'll see what it all means. I'm sure we'll have comments and questions to get to. I've been chasing around Twins this morning and just scrolling social media and listening, picking up what I can. You've been there working on it. What have you learned? What has jumped out to you as you've dug into it the last few hours?
I have learned that, we are indeed nearing a deal. Folks saying probably Monday or Tuesday things will be finalized. The one thing that basically the sticking point at this point, from what I have been told and what I understand, is Feliciano needs to come up with how he actually is getting the money. He runs Clear Lake Capital. He's a co-founder of that, which has $90 billion in assets under its hood. But he is trying to buy this on his own with his wife. So he is just looking for a way to show them that he has the $3.9 billion of financial wherewithal to do it. Who are his co-investors? Apparently, that's the biggest bid. And as long as he's able to show them that he's good for it, everything should be fine. And I have to believe, Darnay, that anyone who says they have $3.9 billion and has this many different assets at their fingertips is probably good for the money. So at this point, it's just all right, show us the receipts, open the bank account, and everything should be just fine. And there also could be a bit of not a sticking point, but a delay, because 30% of Petco Park is also included in this sale. And of course, the city of San Diego also has to sign off on that part of it. So it could be we're just waiting for, the mayor's office, whoever it may be over at City Hall, to get their hand, send an email back going, yeah, we're good.
So what are the Petco Park ramifications of that?
Well, the city owns 70% of Petco Park, and the new owners will have 30% of Petco Park. So you're coming into a partnership not just with Major League Baseball, but with the city of San Diego. So city of San Diego also has to approve, yeah, we're okay selling to these people.
Yeah. Feliciano, you do your Googling, the Forbes and whatnot will tell you 3.9 billion in net worth. And as we've discussed, the Seidlers owned 24% or so of the Padres. It's rare that you have the Tom Gores situation where you are 100% owner of a franchise the way he is the Detroit Pistons. And so there's all the different particulars, like what exactly is the amount of the franchise that he is in ownership of, and then who comes along with this bid, because we, of course, heard names like Drew Brees and the owner of Vuori, and them expressing some interest in being part of a group like this. And so that's going to be part of this as well. Like who is with him in this bid, and what is the allocation of the franchise that he will be in possession of. We know he will be the primary majority owner along with his wife, but I would imagine they won't be alone in doing this.
Correct. That's what they're also looking for, is who's going to be along with you. Felicia, by the way, Kwanza Jones is also very, very interesting. She is a Princeton alum. They met at Princeton. They're both Princeton alums. She has a law degree from Pepperdine. She's a singer, entrepreneur. Like she's got cash of her own now. And the Felicianos, their charitable endeavors are, the philanthropy is very far reaching. So that's something we love so much about Peter Seidler and how much he did in this organization and did in this community. And it looks like these are the kinds of folks who also would try to jump into the San Diego community and do something, have at least that big of an impact here as well. So that may be the tipping point that sent it. If you're looking at, John Seidler saying, as he told me in spring training, he's wanting to honor his brother's legacy. And looking at Peter did, I wonder if that was maybe a little bit more of a criteria than we were led to believe, or that we had thought that would be as part of it. So if they are this big in the community and into charity and in philanthropy, then this could be a very, very big deal for San Diego, because it's not just putting a winner on the field. It is bringing other things to the community and helping everyone, everyone around the ballpark, everyone around downtown, everyone in the entire San Diego County. It's really, really cool, the potential of this. But as long as he shows he's good for the money and he has a couple of investors there, he will be the control person, which unfortunately we've had to talk about on this podcast. Everyone knows what that is now, the person who actually is recognized by the league as being the decision maker and having the official vote and those kinds of things. He'll be the control person, and we're going to roll with it from there.
Yeah, the one interesting note, Jared Diamond, who did the reporting for Wall Street Journal, as I was driving around today, he was on with Ben and Woods, and I only caught a portion of the interview, but one very interesting thing that he said was that he is under the understanding that Feliciano and Jones will be moving their philanthropic efforts to San Diego. And they intend on really investing in the community in and around San Diego. Very good. And I think that's probably like one of the most interesting, encouraging things that I've heard, again, from Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, because that is the big concern. there's the character piece as well. And obviously Peter Seiler checked that box as well as you ever possibly could. And so you're wondering, like, will we have some cold, heartless business person that only views the business kind of side of things and their ability to make some money off this? Or will it be somebody who is invested in the people, invested in the city? And that leads you, of course, to believe that there is real investment in the city of San Diego from Jose Feliciano and Kwanza Jones, that they want to be rooted here. And also, if you're going to invest in the city in that manner, that would potentially, if there is any reason to give any credence to these questions, eliminate the question of whether or not the Padres will stay in San Diego. This sounds very much like a group that is rooted here, that wants to be here. And, you know, the cost of the franchise, what the franchise means to the city of San Diego. We've seen the sellout so far, the excitement around this club. This is the show in this city. And again, I came here after the Chargers had already been gone for a couple of years, but I've just seen the Padres just become the thing in this town, and so meaningful to the city and to the community. And that, I got to imagine, was a huge selling point and a big reason why somebody would offer up $3 billion, or there would be that $3.9 billion valuation of the club. And that they would want to come here and be part of that and invest in that. I think that's really, really encouraging.
It's amazing. It really is. And yeah, by the way, Carla, yes, the Padres are staying in San Diego. There's no place, there's no place for them to go. Again, as we've talked about, it's where do you find another city that is as nice as San Diego, that has a ballpark like San Diego, that has a fan base as invested as the Friar faithful? Remember, they were second in Major League Baseball last year in attendance, behind only the Dodgers. And Dodger Stadium has about 13,000 more seats in it. That's the only reason they were able to get a higher attendance number. Like this, everyone is all in. And oh, by the way, as we've seen so far this year, this team's really good. Like, this team has a legitimate chance to win a World Series. So those are all the reasons you wanted to buy this thing. I mean, having as Corey Martin, a sports attorney, told me about this, he's worked on these types of deals for 2 decades. He said, having a sports franchise is like having oceanfront property, right? You're on the beach. So just by the fact that there's that, and there's a finite amount of that type of property, the price is going up. Well, this is a bit of beachfront property on a beach. Like San Diego, the Padres they're a diamond. Like this doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet, which I think is what drives the bidding price up for something like this. Is you get to have a franchise like this in a place like this. This is such a rare commodity that where are you going to take them? Portland? You know, are you going to take them to Nashville? There's no
great
other
towns.
place that could.
Yeah. Great towns, but
again, great towns, but they're not here. I love both of those places. You know, Salt Lake City, fantastic spot. They're not able to put together and build the synergy between a ball club and a fan base and a community the same way that exists right now in San Diego. Why on earth would you take what is here and try to replicate it somewhere else when all the groundwork's been laid for you already?
Well said. Let's get to a couple of the comments here from our buddy Lauren. Padres' biggest franchise sale in MLB history. Put it next to Manny Machado, $300 million deal with the Padres as things my brain wouldn't have comprehended 25 years ago.
How about 10 years ago?
This is an interesting one from Chiprock's fan theory going around informs that Jose E. Feliciano hates the owners of the Dodgers. If this is true, then I'm 1,000 on board with Feliciano. Now verify this is true for me. We discussed this, Derek. We discussed this when his name came up because he was part of the group with Badad Eghbali, Clear Lake Capital, 2 groups that bought Chelsea. The other was Go Blue and Todd Bowley. And Bowley was the control person initially for Chelsea, so he was kind of the front-facing individual. But they had, I forget what their percentage was. I think it was like in the 30s. Clear Lake Capital, I think 61% of Chelsea. And the two, based on reports from BBC and elsewhere, were trying to wrest control from one another. So there seemed to be some differences in opinion on the direction of Chelsea. And so there was reason to believe that like there was some friction there. And so that was my first question, is because you hear people saying, oh, they're in business with the Dodgers. Do we want this person to be the owner? I'm like, I think there's a chance that they might not like each other. And so I think there might be something to this fan theory going around in the forums that Chip Rocks is discussing. Who knows how out in the open Feliciano will be about his relationship with these guys. But there seems to be some whispers out there that he might not be too fond of the folks on the Dodgers side of Chelsea ownership, which adds another interesting layer to what is currently the best rivalry in baseball.
Yeah, Todd Bowley is actually a very large investor in the Dodgers. And you're right, they did work together with Chelsea. And from people I have asked around, a lot of on background, off the record kind of stuff, it's not so much animosity as it is a big brother, little brother kind of thing, where they got into a thing where it was like, Bowley was trying to like, listen, I've done this. I'm with the Dodgers. Like, I just sit down and watch, kid, while I do this. And Feliciano's like, no, I would like to run this in a way. I'm a smart guy. I'd like to run this too. So now you've got Feliciano, who has got his own team in Major League Baseball. And oh, by the way, it's the one that the Dodgers fear the most. So it's one of those like, oh, hey, guess what, buddy? Now you can't ignore me. Now you have to deal with my ass, and I'm going to come up and whoop yours a few times. So I think it's more of retribution than aggression. But that dynamic very much does exist, and there might be a little bit of an extra if we get a 2021 Padres and Dodgers both bidding for Max Scherzer type of situation. Mm-hmm. This ownership group might go a little more in to make sure that Max comes down here instead, or that type of a deal is made. They don't want to lose anymore to the Dodgers. And Peter hated them and hated it like crazy, but he didn't. With the O'Malley family, there was a tie in there. It was more of a kind of a cordial, like a baseball history kind of tie. They've got business animosity, right? They got business beef. So now it's going to be like, I'm going to show you that I'm the superior businessman by coming there and whooping your tail in something you told me that I couldn't do.
Yeah. And the other part of it too is you see a lot of comments about Chelsea, and Chelsea is not in great shape right now financially. The results aren't what people would want them to be. They have spent, for what it's worth.
They spent a bunch of money. Yeah.
But it just hasn't gone particularly well. And so people immediately jump to like, well, now you're bringing their owner here. How's that going to work out? And it's another thing Jared Diamond mentioned was, like, Jose Feliciano was part of one of these groups, but Badad Iqbali was kind of, at the forefront of that side, the Clear Lake group. Todd Bowley, like you said, control person, the one kind of making the shots, calling the shots at least earlier on. It didn't seem like Jose Feliciano himself was the one like making the moves and pulling the strings for Chelsea.
No,
it was more of an investment, something that he was obviously, invested a lot of money in, was part of, but again, wasn't the one that was making decisions. And so I don't know how much of the Chelsea situation you can put on him, and how much you need to worry about that from a Padres standpoint. There's going to be a million questions, like, and we'll get to some of those because I put it out there on Twitter. I was like, what are the biggest questions? One that I saw from a bunch of people is like, are you keeping AJ Preller? Because especially now, given the way the season is going, and I know you have some feelings on this as well, and I have some feelings on how this should probably go. Just signed a new contract, and there's been like the AJ Preller like story in San Diego, like it's had some peaks and valleys. Like right now, we're in a really good spot, and that is an area of concern and one question that I think he'll need to answer, because any situation like this, you wonder if somebody's going to want to clean house and bring in their guys. And I think there's reason to want to keep AJ Preller in place, but ultimately that's going to be up to him making that call.
You bring up very good points. With Chelsea, he has spent money. I think the problem is it's been more like kind of like what Steve Cohen has done with the Mets, where they have spent money, they haven't spent it in super smart places. Which means that, but I will say Feliciano was not the one making these decisions. He's not the one saying, sign that player, trade that player, let that guy go, bring that guy up, start that guy and go. He's not doing any of that day-to-day kind of stuff. What he is saying is, I will give you the budget, and I'm going to trust you to take this money and make the best you can with it. So I think What he needs to do is put the very smart, good people in place to make those decisions. And the guy I always bring up is Stan Kroenke. Stan Kroenke, every North American franchise he owns or has owned has won a championship. The Rams, the Nuggets, the Avalanche, the Mammoth, they've all won because he's found really smart people in those industries, put them in charge, said, let me know when you need a check, right? And then just goes in and enjoys the suite and enjoys holding the Lombardi trophy. I think Feliciano will be much more on that track where he will be like, listen, you guys know this. I will support you financially. Go out and win it for me. He just has to figure out if AJ Preller is the guy who's going to be able to do that. If the entire, the entire front office, I mean, there are like 1,000 employees with the Padres. They're all getting a new boss. In probably in a couple of months, they're all getting a new boss. So it's going to be a little bit scary for all of them. So he's going to have to look top to bottom with this organization and say, how do I want to run things? Obviously, there's a lot of success right now, and there's a lot of momentum right now. So I doubt as a smart businessman, he would come in and start making wholesale changes. I think he's going to try and find out if AJ is the guy who he trusts through a personal relationship to build the organization to a point where it can compete for a World Series year in and year out. And then remember a couple of years ago when AJ had all that cash and he spent it on Xander Bogaerts and went out and did that deal for Juan Soto and all that good stuff, and it just didn't pan out? Well, if he gets that kind of paycheck again, will he spend it in a different way? That's what I'm curious to see, because he's going to, if he has the right people in place, I honestly don't think, Darnay, that money is going to be a problem.
Yeah, and this is all with the understanding that like a new media deal could be 2 years away, which isn't that far away in the grand scheme of things, especially when you consider an ownership group that's kind of just getting its legs under it. And the potential financial windfall that could come for the Padres, and just in terms of like leveling the playing field for them across Major League Baseball, is going to make kind of the spending piece of it a lot more manageable. And, we've spent so many hours on this podcast talking about financial constraints for this club. And some of that is their own doing with the kind of bloated contracts that might not be the most well allocated use of funds. But at the end of the day, as it all washes out, you got back-to-back 90-win seasons, 4 postseason appearances over the last 6 years, and a team that appears headed in that direction as well. But like you said, from a financial standpoint and them being potentially in a more stable position, like that's part of it as well. Hopefully they're the light at the end of the tunnel of like, is this team about to go broke and do they have any money to spend? Hopefully it isn't. Hopefully it's about 2 years away before that is less and less of a concern. And a group that seemingly has deep pockets can show off those deep pockets without such concern about debt reduction and all these different issues that have kind of plagued the franchise in recent years. And then, of course, one of the questions, like you mentioned, is person in that position being responsible with those funds. And at the end of the day, as far as we're concerned in the present moment, is that person AJ Preller?
Let me tie a couple things together here, because you're talking about, I know a lot of people wonder, well, what happens next? The new ownership group does not take control immediately. This has to go through an entire review process. So Major League Baseball's other owners get to take a shot of doing their own investigation, vetting him. They'll have probably a couple of months to do that. And you need to get 22. You need 22 of the other 29 owners, assuming John Seidler votes yes, which you can think we could probably assume is a safe vote, to say, yes, I approve this move. Once they get that down, then the U.S. Securities and Exchanges Commission, they have to take a look at it to make sure the business deal is on the up and up, and taxes and capital gains and all that kind of stuff. That'll take around a week or so. Got to get sign off from the city of San Diego, as we said before. All that has to happen before they can formally take over operational control. Okay. With the Tampa Bay Rays, that took about 2 months. With the New York Mets, during a pandemic, that took about around 2 months. So if we're looking at they announce it on Monday or so, then we're talking about the new ownership group very likely taking over by the All-Star break. Okay.
What's shortly after the All-Star break, Derek?
The trade deadline, August 3rd this year. Well done, Darnay. You're following the crumbs I'm leaving here perfectly. What better way to make a hello, San Diego? Are you not entertained? than to go just absolutely hog wild at the trade deadline and just go for broke. Just go nuts. Just say, hey, this is my Jose and Kwanza, our introductory press conference. Hey, nice to meet you guys. Oh, by the way, Tarek Screwball, come on in. We just traded for you. By the way, surprise, everyone. This is my present to you. Like, just do something just crazy and wild like that. That would be so freaking cool.
Yeah, it'll be, a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it'll be enlightening. It potentially could be enlightening, depending on where they are and how they handle a situation like that. If the timing is such, and especially we're sitting here and they're like, what, Dodgers one game back of the Dodgers for most wins in Major League Baseball. If this keeps up and they're right there and they're looking like a National League contender, and the rotation, I mean, that's the obvious one at this point. The rotation needs some work, or maybe at that point you could use another bat. And there's those names that are always floating out there that you're like, I don't know if they can, it's not going to be kind of Juan Soto level. I'm trying to think of what the examples were, say, last year. But you bring up Max Scherzer from 2021. Who's floated out there? Who's gettable? Will they be aggressive at that point? That's going to let you know a little bit something about kind of what their priorities are and their level of commitment to following through on Peter's vision and bringing a parade to San Diego. Because, yeah, what better time to do it than right when you arrive, you're setting the tone, you're letting people know what you're all about, and the team is in the mix. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're going to be in that spot at any other point. And so that's going to be an interesting. The timing of that could make it very, very compelling.
It could, yeah, that's going to be exciting. I mean, so that's going to be like, all right. And what we could do is the owners could wait, because we have to get everybody together for a vote, right? And everybody's together at All-Star Weekend. So they could all say, hey, by the way, guys, throw it on the docket. We're going to have a vote here as well. That's when they do the draft. I mean, everybody's in the same place. It could be that big, almost like a coronation, if you will, which still a couple of weeks before the trade deadline. So I'm looking right around the All-Star break is when this will officially be transitioning into a new ownership group, which is just like super exciting.
More comments from Davey. Feliciano and Friedkin were the only two groups that had no potential drama/lingering storylines attached. Good news today. I think there was the early relocation concern, and then Gores with the whole Chargers.
I already yelled at Barry about that whole relocation thing. Don't worry, that's fine.
I felt like I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, Dan Friedkin, I think, was like the most from my standpoint, most exciting, deep pockets, $9.9 billion San Diego guy,
and a stunt pilot.
You ever see
the movie Dunkirk? Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, did not see it.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned, right? But there's a scene in there where a Spitfire lands on the beach, right? Like, just totally awesome. Dan Friedkin was flying that plane in the Christopher Nolan movie that was nominated for Oscars. He won awards for his stunt pilot flying. Like, crazy. You want to talk about a dude who'd be like kind of the crazy, like the crazy Uncle Fester, who's the owner.
He would do the flyovers over Petco Park.
Yeah, he'd be flying over. He would be doing flyovers over Petco Park. If he owns AC Roma over in the Premier League, and they signed over in Italy, and they signed some big time player that I don't remember his name. He lands in at the airport. Everybody's all freaking out because he comes walking off the plane. This is the big acquisition. Friedkin was flying the plane. Like, he's one of those kind of wacky, kind of fun guy. That would have been actually a really fun one to deal with.
Joe Lacob felt like other than the relocation stuff, that probably wasn't going to happen. That aside, felt like the safest, because like known commodity, American sports, track record, Southern California roots. Gores seemed like the biggest boom bust because of the Charger situation and because of like the crazy, like maybe he brings an NFL team here. Probably not going to happen, but at least just like the wildest possibilities. And Jose Feliciano was kind of the biggest unknown. Like, I just don't know what to make of this guy or this situation. And we've learned a little bit today, which I think has made people exciting. But I felt like I had a bit more of a handle over those three than Feliciano before today.
And I think what I've learned just by looking into him here is it seems to me like he's probably the most level-headed, if that makes any sense. Like, he seems to be the steadiest of them all, where it's just I actually got on YouTube and listened to several of his talks, like through Bloomberg, or he talked to a equity firm marketing conference, and the way he talks is very pragmatic. It's very kind of matter of fact. Here we go. We've got this asset with Chelsea. The only way to make it more valuable is to make it win. So we're going to put more in there to make it win. That's what we're going to do. We're committed to the fan base. He's very smooth in his delivery on things. Whereas you got freaking, flying Spitfires on the beaches. You got Tom Gores who's flying all over the place and about to get into a bidding war with Dean Spanos. He seems like more like the more caustic type. Lacob would probably have to find a way to divest himself of the Warriors, which is obviously his biggest asset there. And you also see with Joe, he's having a lot of trouble letting go of Draymond Green and Steph Curry, and kind of turning the page on what Steve Kerr called the other day was a fading dynasty. So maybe there's is he able to roll with the punches and change with the times? I'm not sure. So Feliciano seems like the most steady, level-headed one of them all now as I'm looking at all of these different folks. Or that might just be what I'm trying to tell myself, because that's who we're going to have.
Mark watching on Facebook. Hopefully new ownership pays for street repairs.
Sure. We'll throw that in the we'll throw that into the contract as well.
We'll see what you talk about community investment again. Like, what does that mean for East Village? Obviously, Peter was really involved with the homeless population around Petco Park, and there's some political issues going on around the city, around Petco Park. Whether it be kind of the use of the real estate around, obviously the homelessness, parking, paid parking. Can they use part of that $3.9 billion just to wipe out any of the paid meter parking around Petco Park that's popped up in the last year or so? So I don't know, what they have, not just on the team, but on the stadium, on the surrounding neighborhoods, all of that will be an interesting thing to watch.
It really is. It's going to be interesting. Hey, let's get some more comments here. How about Kristen says maybe his focus will be more on the Padres. That can be sexy. Mm-hmm. I like it. Winning baseball teams are sexy to me. I don't know about you, Darnay, but I like that idea.
I agree. And Kirsten, I should say, is already popping bottles. She's excited.
Is that what that is? I thought. Okay. I need to put my glasses on. I thought those were juggling pins. As someone who can juggle and has done pins, they look like juggling pins. Kirsten, I apologize, A, for butchering your name, and B, for not understanding the emoji. Please forgive me.
Lauren saying it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, Lauren.
And I was going to pull this. I meant to pull this up earlier because obviously a lot of people with a lot of questions and a lot of concerns. And
while you're doing that, I'll give Chip Rocks another shout out here. See, Feliciano's first order business, once the ink dries, extend Laureano and Miller. Yeah, I know we have him for 3 more years. It wouldn't hurt to lock him down now. Agreed. Laureano has more than proven that yes, last year was not a flash in the pan, and Mason Miller is not human. All right, Mason Miller what he's doing is so stupid statistically. But I was talking to some folks at Petco Park, some longtime baseball writers the other day, about what if he does challenge Orel Hershiser's 59 straight scoreless innings streak. Okay, there are going to be a lot of people who argue the merit of one over the other, because Hershiser did that in 1988. Hershiser did that literally in 1 month. It was the month of September. He got absolutely caught fire. He had 1 start in August and then 6 or 7 starts in September, didn't allow a run. Finished the year with 10 shutout innings against the Padres, believe it or not, to set that record and break Don Drysdale's record. He did that in more or less 1 month, right? Mason Miller will have to do it over the course of 2 years and probably 57 or 58 appearanrances. So which is more impressive? They're completely different and in no way comparable. For Hershiser to be that good, that consistent, and throw complete 4 or 5 complete games in a row is incredible. But for Miller to come out and do it over that many days, you're talking about over the course of almost a year, you're fighting illness, injury, potential due to not knowing when you're going to get in, the caustic nature of being in the bullpen. They're both such different physical and emotional grinds that if and I might even say when Miller gets to that 60th consecutive shutout inning, I don't know if it's not more impressive than what Hershiser did. Like it's unfathomable we're even having this conversation about a closer right now.
So maybe for the introductory press conference, they should bring Mason Miller up to the podium as well to announce like a 6-year extension or something.
Yes, that would be wonderful. In fact, there you go. Feliciano comes out and he sits down and you cue Korn.
No, yeah, they're live. They're actually there behind a curtain. The curtain opens up.
Curtain pulls down. There's Korn back there, just ready to go.
Are you ready?
Yep, that dude. Okay, if this is why we need to be in charge of events, because we would make that happen, and that would be freaking badass.
Okay, some of the questions. Some people want to know if Feliciano will unretire number 6.
I hope so. I really do hope so, because I mean, look, Steve Garvey had arguably the single greatest swing in Padres history. Even he identifies as a Dodger. All right, there's no reason. There's no reason. You can't. Come on, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And then I hope they unretire it and Jackson Merrill takes it.
There you go. Vinny asking, who will be the minority owners in this purchase? Anyone we would know. It's something we kind of touched on. Is there's bound to be like 1 or 2 interesting names that we're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool.
Remember, there's the Padres ownership group now is like, is Ron Fowler selling his stake? Like, how many of the O'Malley family out? How much of it is he actually taking over? That's something that we don't know right now.
Yeah. Who is the owner of the Mexico City Red Devils?
That's a good question. Is it Art Bellew?
Yes. Because our buddy Darren, yes, thank you. Our buddy Darren Smith, I believe it was Eric Gomez, and I think his home is in Mexico City. He's done work for ESPN, and he seemed to indicate that Harpelou was thinking about selling his stake, and then they got down the road with this process, and he decided, you know what, I want to stick around. So you would think that would be another encouraging sign about the direction that they're heading in and this ownership. But again, plays into kind of the math of how much that they end up kind of taking on as owners, and who else is part of this part of ownership, if not part of the Feliciano group. And is there, one of these San Diego celebrity types like Drew Brees that decides to chip in X amount of millions of dollars, and then, he's in the owner's box 80 times a year at Petco Park and is more visible, and we're asking Drew about the Padres and that sort of thing.
Now, remember back in 2012, when the Padres were sold to the Seidler and Fowler group and O'Malley group, Thomas Tull was one of the people bidding for it. And he was basically the owner of Legendary Pictures. I'm going back to Christopher Nolan here. They did the Dark Knight trilogy. And he was a part of a group that was trying to bid for the team. And in that group, he had Tony Gwynn before his passing and Phil Mickelson. So they had some guys who were like some big name local, San Diego folks who were trying to, and basically you do that because kind of like what Breeze would be is this is somebody who can really help me connect with and tie into the local community. Somebody who's already known, somebody who was loved by folks there. So that's what that would be. It would be like you own 0.5% of this team, but you're still considered an owner.
Yeah. And there's a lot of questions about like, what do you know about the Padres? Somebody's like, do you know Tony Gwynn's number? What do you know about the rivalry with the Dodgers? And the reality is they might not know a whole lot, and they've probably learned a whole lot. Now, Clear Lake Capital's headquartered in Malibu, so they're not far away. And so I'm sure there is some just innate knowledge there, but I don't know if I necessarily need this person to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the franchise. I need them to have investment in the franchise, investment in the city, willingness to spend and do whatever it takes to win a championship. And he has a chance to win over the fan base if he comes and he drops some names and big moments in Padres history and shows some knowledge of the history of the franchise, and that'll interest people and surprise people and maybe get folks on board. But at the end of the day, it's like you want that, and that's good, but that can grow over time. What you want is, all the people asking, what's the budget going to be like? Are you willing to spend? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to win a World Series? Are you willing to sign an extension for Laureano or Mason Miller? That's what matters most at that point. And again, you're just coming off a beloved owner with family ties to the Dodgers, and people could not be in more support and have more affection for Peter Seidler. So some of that stuff is only so important.
Yeah, the second Peter Seidler stepped out and said, "We're not a small market team," everything changed.
Yeah,
everything changed. So
how much? Yeah, another one. How much do you hate to lose? How much do you want to take down the Guggenheim Dodgers? It's a checkbook war. Are you ready for what that entails?
Can I answer for him?
Please.
Really badly. And here's my routing number.
A lot of questions about AJ Preller. I mean, there's a lot of people curious about.
AJ's got the extension, at least for the time being. And this is another thing I talked to Corey Martin, the attorney, about, because he's seen these transitions. He's helped people make these transitions. So what do these things typically look like? And he said what they do, especially mid-season, is they walk in and they have a meeting with the entire organization, tip to tail, players to the rank and file. And he says, nothing changes. Nothing. For this year, you guys do what you do. Keep your eyes on the prize. Focus on your jobs. We're not doing a darn thing. You guys are on the right track. Keep pulling and pushing in the same direction. I'm here to supplement and help you right now. And then in the off season, they do a whole review of everything and all that stuff, right? So he's going to come in and say, listen, we're not changing a thing. AJ, you do what you got to do. The only thing that might change is, hey, don't ask me if you can make a deal. Go make the deal and I'll pay for it. Yeah. That might be the only thing. The only change would be loosening things or making them positive, at least for the first year, because he's taken over Chelsea. He understands what a transition looks like. You can't come in and immediately just start going, well, I'm going to start rattling these cages or doing this over here or changing hospitality or whatever it may be. You have to let things play out and do things in a timely manner. And that's not, the middle of the season is not the time to do that. So nothing will change dramatically in the middle of the year. AJ's got his extension, although we still don't know how long it is. He's got his extension. He is going to be around. No problem. They go to the playoff. They go to the National League Championship Series again. Absolutely. He's going nowhere.
Yeah. And, on the Chelsea front, we discussed earlier, how much can you really put that on him? One person I thought is a valid question is what did you learn from that experience? Because certainly he was around, he was in the know. Mm-hmm. He saw the inner workings of all that and was, privy to the good decisions, the bad decisions, the regrettable ones. And so what did he take from that experience? Because I don't know the extent of his sports ownership apart from Chelsea. If there was any, what was that, 2022 when he got involved?
Yep. Same year that he tried to buy the Denver Broncos. Right. He was outbid, and he tried to buy that 27% stake of the Chargers that Tom Gores actually got. So he's been trying to get into North American major sports for a while. And speaking of North American major sports, this is super historic because he is now the first Puerto Rican-born owner of a major North American sports franchise. And his wife is the first Black majority owner of a major North American, Black woman, Black female, to be a majority owner of a major North American sports franchise. So this is just, from that standpoint, it's really cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Anything else before we wind down? I think we hit on a bunch of the angles of this.
I don't know. Did we miss anything? My head's been swimming in this all day. So sometimes I think I've been talked about it already, but maybe not on here.
I don't know if there's any major questions or topics that we haven't hit on. Again, there's only so much that we really know at this point, and a lot to learn and kind of figuring out the timeline. Like you said, early next week, this thing might be crystallized a little bit more, but could be some time before we actually get a chance to meet them. So It's going to be a process that plays out over the course of the next couple months or so. But the first kind of big domino fell this morning when Wall Street Journal said, hey guys, it's going to be Jose Feliciano and company taking things over from John Seidler and the Seidler family. So off we go.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And you're right. Going back to like of the four, if you had to rank the four and which one you would think they would go, I probably would have gone Lacob because he's wanted a baseball team for so long. I didn't think he would let anybody outbid him. And then Gores, Friedkin, and Feliciano would have been last. You may flip the middle two, but I would have figured that because he just, as you said, he was the one we knew the least about, not based on merit, but just based on who seems to have momentum going toward this goal, and flip it right on its head. You know, that's it. It's very interesting. He and then what this shows you too, Darnay, is he wants this thing. Like he wants to have the San Diego Padres. And we'll go back to what we've been saying on here when people started talking about the relocation thing, or, you know, are they going to spend money thing? You're spending nearly $4 billion on an asset. This is not a way for you to try to make money, right? Not a professional sports franchise. This is a toy. And when you get a new toy, you want to play with your new toy, right? This is for fun for him. Obviously, yes, he's going to try and turn a profit. And he's certainly nobody's going to take something on like this that is just a money-losing proposition. That's not smart business sense, and these are all incredibly smart business people. But he's not looking at this as, this is going to be my main thing. This is something for some pocket change, right? Pocket change, whatever falls out of the couch, out of his pockets in the couch cushions, this is what the Padres will generate for him. He wants to hold a trophy. He wants to be a winner and a major winner, and he wants to do it with this club. So that tells me if he's willing to go to this number when nobody in a million years thought it would ever get to this number, this guy wants to own this club in a bad way, and that's a good thing for San Diego.
Well said. Good stuff, Derek. I'll let you get back to the TV side of things. I'm out next week, so you'll be at the controls, and maybe next week's podcast, we'll talk some actual baseball things beyond Mason Miller. I'm sure there's going to be more from this story that'll come up, but there's a baseball team that's actually playing pretty well that we didn't really get a chance to touch on.
Yeah, not too shabby. In fact, I'll be up in Anaheim Sunday for that game, for doing it for Sports Night in San Diego. So we'll have a little bit more clubhouse reaction. Might be able to ask a couple guys, so what do you know about your guy who looks like he's your new owner? Yeah.
Have they seen him swing through the clubhouse or walking around the building at all? You know, these guys have been visiting. So has Manny watched a Chelsea match with Jose Feliciano one of these mornings? I don't know.
No, there you go. You know what? Since Manny is a minority owner of San Diego FC, are we going to get a Chelsea SDFC match?
Ooh, I like that.
Couple owners talking shop.
Mm-hmm. I think we might have stumbled on the biggest question of all around Jose Feliciano. Chelsea coming to Snapdragon, or SDFC going to, like I'm supposed to know the name of the stadium that Chelsea plays at?
Somewhere in Europe.
Somewhere in Europe.
Oh, I think I might be able to even narrow it down to England.
Yeah, I think you feel pretty good about that. Great stuff, Derek. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Thanks for everybody for chiming in. Fun conversation. Lots to learn ahead, and Padres are playing great baseball. So a lot to like right now, a lot to feel good about if you're a Padres fan, and we'll look forward to being back with you in the coming weeks. Thanks, everybody.